Hey everyone, it's Callum from Cagefront here. Welcome back to the channel. And if you are new here, welcome to the channel. We have what was supposed to be a UFC fight night, Jamahal Hill versus Khalil Rountree. However, Jamahal Hill did withdraw, but we have Carlos Prates versus Ian Garry to save the day. And arguably, I think it's actually even a better main event to actually have. So I am very keen to go through this card. We do have some really nice gems throughout this card. We've got Michel Pereira versus Magomedov. That is going to go 1,000 kilometers an hour. We have got Zhang Mingyang going against Anthony Smith, with Anthony Smith having his retirement fight, which is an ultimate risk versus reward against a guy like Zhang Mingyang. And we have got so much more. So we're going to be predicting and breaking down every single fight on the card, and also predicting all of the fight card awards. So without further ado, let's kick it off with the first fight of Chelsea Chandler versus Joselyne Edwards. I'm going to make this one pretty quick, to be honest. I just don't think Chelsea Chandler realistically belongs in the UFC. She has not looked good the entire time she's been in the UFC. She fought Norma Dumont, and don't get me wrong, Norma Dumont is definitely one of the best fighters in this division, but she literally ran away from her in the opposite direction. She was trying to run out of the fucking cage, and if that's anything to go by, as well as her other performances where she just realistically has not looked good at all, that going against Joselyne Edwards, who Joselyne, she has lost a couple fights, but they're against ranked opposition like Aylin Perez and Nora Cornell, who are both way better than Chelsea Chandler. Joselyne Edwards is literally better everywhere in MMA over Chelsea Chandler. I think Joselyne Edwards can definitely use her Muay Thai advantage, the speed, over Chandler, and on the ground, I just don't think Chandler stands an absolute chance. And Joselyne Edwards against Tamirez Vidal, granted, she was overweight, but she secured a rear naked choke very nicely. Her ground transitions did surprise me. I was impressed, and I think that that's where we're going to get a submission win here. I think it's going to come in the first to the second round. I think she's just going to out-transition Chandler very easily on the ground. She's going to suffocate her against the cage, get that clinch work going, take her down, and then hunt a submission within those early rounds. Now, moving up to a much more entertaining fight, we got Timmy Cuamba versus Roberto Romero. Now, both these guys, they are young, they're coming in, they're both hungry, they're very honestly impressive with their performances, even though they have lost in their performances. I think that they have both impressed me, at least, very well. We look at Timmy Cuamba, he's 0-2 in the UFC, but first fight, he went up a weight class on 4 days' notice against Oki and showed very good tools. And he showed very good tools against Lucas Almeida in his last fight, moving into featherweight, being his natural weight class. And he showed pretty nice striking. He's got very fast 1-2s. He's got heart. He's got durability. He got dropped multiple times in that fight in the first round and managed to dig through all the way to a decision, which he did lose, but he definitely has that grit there. And he's also very fast on the outside. He's very good at circling out, getting good strikes in, and then just circling. Keep circling. And I just do think that Cuamba does have some form of future in the UFC. But against Roberto Romero, if we're looking at their debuts and the fights they've had in the UFC so far, Romero's only had one. And it was against David Onama, who is further up this card. And he almost chinned David Onama. Onama is getting a top 15 shot against Giga Chikadze. Romero came out on short notice, looked absolutely incredible, was kicking his legs to bits, was landing very nice combinations on the feet where he literally cracked David Onama, dropped him, and then David Onama, using the explosivity he does have in the ground game, that's where he was really able to save himself. But aside from that, honestly, Roberto Romero had a guy that's challenging for the top 15 in trouble on short notice in his debut. And his boxing is very clean. He's definitely aggressive, but his power translates very well through the combinations and just the technique he has. And that's what he showed against Onama. And that's where I believe, honestly, I think that he's going to get the KO TKO here. I think Romero is severely underrated. If Timmy Cuamba can stay on the outside and just have a perfect game around that and avoid those power shots, there is a chance for him. But even Roberto Romero on the ground, I prefer him a lot more. And he could possibly get a submission here against Cuamba if he drops him early. But I do believe that he's going to get the KO TKO around the second to the third round with just an accumulation of damage. Now, moving up to Jaqueline Amorim versus Polyana Viana. Now, Polyana Viana, honestly, kind of like Chelsea Chandler. I don't know how she's still in the UFC, to be honest. Like, especially when we're looking at the ability of Jaqueline Amorim, she is just better everywhere. She's a better fighter, just a better pedigree of fighter. Honestly, I think she can get it done in any which way, but I think she's going to make a statement. I mean, she did submit Vanessa Demopoulos, which is a little sketchy. She did kind of cheat, grabbed the glove and pulled her arm, but she does have a strong caliber of submissions, and I think against Polyana Viana, I think she's going to make a statement, and I think she's just going to outdo her in her own discipline, and I think that she's going to find the submission probably in the first or second round. I think transitionally, she's just so much better. Polyana Viana just looks like she's on skate. She just looks like she's uncomfortable in every fight she's in. I just have not been impressed whatsoever. I mean, Amorim, she does have a decent jab as well. She's got the reach advantage here. I can see her definitely taking this fight by decision, by KO, TKO, or decision, but I think that she is going to hunt the submission and just outdo that record of Polyana Viana in the first to the second round. Now, moving up to a very entertaining, fast-paced fight, we got Cameron Saaiman versus Malcolm Wellmaker. Now, this, in terms of mentality, this is definitely a make or break for Cameron Saaiman's UFC career, because he's lost to C-Rod, he got out transitioned completely, and that loss to Peyton Talbot was scary. Like, when I watch fights and fighters are getting dominated, I'm not usually too stressed or anything like that, but watching Peyton Talbot beat the living shit out of Cameron Saaiman, I was queasing. I was just thinking, please just let this fight stop as soon as possible, because he was just literally getting schoolyard bullied in there. So there's a lot for him to overcome. And when we look at Malcolm Wellmaker, he is an undefeated guy. He's undefeated. He's a hot prospect. He's got fast hands, definitely dangerous with his check hooks on the back foot, which he showed in Dana White's Contender Series. But I will say he does keep his hands very low, and that's where it is risky in terms of the movement that he does have. He's just very kind of flowy, but with that, I mean, great movement with the hips, but I mean, if Cameron Saaiman times a shot, there's no hands there to protect that chin. And Saaiman is good with his boxing. Like, he does have a very nice tight guard, just very traditional. He's very good at having that tight guard, throwing good, fast strikes down the pipe. But just going against a guy like Peyton Talbot, you know, pre-bloody Roundy Barcelos, I mean, he's fought better guys. Clearly, he's fought C-Rod. C-Rod is the prospect killer. And Cameron Saaiman, coming into this, he is going to have to be hungry. And I think, I mean, he's even avoided, like, doing a interview with MMA Guru, you know, like, he's definitely dialed in. He's definitely wanting to make sure that this fight counts, and he's battle tested overall, and that's what I do like about him. He's gone through some pretty tough fights, and I do like the defensive capabilities of Saaiman a lot more. His defense is tighter. He uses kicks more effectively as well than Wellmaker does. And he just has more to offer with the boxing overall, with the striking overall, I do believe, which I do believe it can carry him across 3 rounds to take a decision. But if Wellmaker really gets off in the first round and starts countering Saaiman, and that, you know, strike defense goes out the window, then Saaiman could possibly get chinned. He's got a great chin, but the way he's getting cracked by Peyton, especially with that knee, we don't know how compromised Saaiman's chin is right now. But I do believe, with being so battle tested and just having that durability there, and his just traditional boxing, as well as using really nice kicks at all ranges, there's more tools for Cameron Saaiman, along with that experience, to take this fight. But I believe it's going to be like a split decision, to be honest. I think it's going to be very close. I mean, if Wellmaker really gets going through the first round and carries through, just uses that reach advantage, outpoints Saaiman and counters him effectively, Saaiman will not only lose this, he'll probably get chinned. But I just trust in that experience and that fundamental ability with the boxing, as well as just the kicks all over the place. I just do think that Saaiman has enough tools to get this one done. Just. Now moving up to Blackshear versus Alataengheili. Now, the more that the striking improves for Blackshear, ultimately the worse the matchup becomes for Alataengheili, because hey, Alataengheili is more of like control-based grappler, and unless he has like some perfect showing on the ground, Blackshear is going to take him out one way or another. And we know with Blackshear, 11-0 with submissions. He has great subs from the top. He got a Kimura against Cody Gibson recently, and he's got very nice guillotines from the bottom as well, and so much more. The guy can get twisters as well. He is extremely dangerous with his submissions. And Alataengheili, he's only been submitted once, but he is just realistically this kind of just heavy control-based grappler, and that against someone with Blackshear's submission pedigree, it's very, very dangerous. It's not a good matchup for Alataengheili. Alataengheili is literally going to have to make sure the striking is very much on point. He's going to have to consistently forward pressure the whole time, put Blackshear on the back foot where he's not comfortable, and just outstrike him in the clinch and outmuscle him in the clinch. But is he going to do that for 15 minutes? No, I don't see that happening. And the moment Blackshear gets him on the back foot, he is going to outstrike him. And the moment that this goes to the ground, which Alataengheili will probably try and take it to the ground, which Blackshear will 100% invite, I believe Blackshear is going to get a submission in this one. I think it's going to be a second round guillotine off a takedown attempt. Pretty plain and simple there for me, I do believe. I think Blackshear's submission-based ability against Alataengheili's fight style is just a nightmare, realistically. Unless Alataengheili can get a Montel Jackson finish him in like 20 seconds, I don't see it being a good night for Alataengheili, in all honesty. But if Alataengheili can stay on the feet, forward pressure the whole time, he can win this fight. But I don't see that happening. Now, moving up to a very tricky stylistic matchup, we have Chris Gutierrez versus John Castaneda. Now, this has been going in and out, because this was postponed from UFC 313, and now we're getting this fight. And the good thing is now is that both of them are completely ready. They're both not on short notice or anything, and Castaneda's not having back-to-back weight cuts, which is nice. So they're both going to be fresh coming into this, which is just ultimately smarter for the both of them to actually take this fight, because it is not going to be easy for either of them. Now, we look at Gutierrez. He's a very unique kickboxer. He uses his legs and like his leg kicks, his front kicks as teeps. Like he uses his legs as jabs. Like he's very interesting in the way that he utilizes strikes on the outside. So very tricky puzzle to solve. And I can confidently say John Castaneda has never fought someone like Chris Gutierrez. Where we look at Castaneda on the other side, he's more well-rounded than Gutierrez, and he is very unorthodox in the way he throws strikes too. Very, very technical, but very unorthodox at the same time. But what I will say is Chris Gutierrez, he struggles against like explosive opponents that really frustrate and fluster him, like Song Yadong, which Castaneda isn't that. And Castaneda is very, very good against those power strikers, against guys like Song Yadong, realistically, those kind of fighters, but not technical strikers, which Chris Gutierrez is that technical striker. And with this most likely being fought mostly on the feet, because Gutierrez has a very nice percentage for his takedown defense, honestly, Gutierrez realistically should be taking this fight. I mean, Castaneda can get it to the ground. There's definitely a possibility of finding that submission there, but I just don't see Castaneda's wrestling being able to keep up and get through the takedown defense of Chris Gutierrez overall. And Chris Gutierrez, I mean, if he can just avoid those unorthodox strikes, like those untelegraphed head kicks that Castaneda throws, he's got the technical striking and movement and takedown defense to realistically take this fight, unless there is a takedown that happens against Gutierrez or there's just a wild flinging head kick that chins him. But 9-0 with KOs. He is a hard guy to finish because he's so hard to hit. But that being said, it's not going to be easy. I see this being a split decision for Chris Gutierrez. It's just that, yes, Castaneda has never fought a guy like Gutierrez, but at the same time, Gutierrez hasn't really fought a guy like John Castaneda, to be honest. Like, Castaneda's just so awkward. Weird frame as well. Just, he's got more well-rounded tools overall. He's going to make it a puzzle for Gutierrez, and I think it's just going to be very back and forth in weird kind of ways throughout the whole entire fight, and it's going to be a bit of a nightmare for the judges, which, knowing the judges, they'll probably somehow get wrong anyway, and they'll probably give someone a clear 30-27 or a 30-26, who bloody knows, but ultimately, I do think Chris Gutierrez, I mean, he's fought better opposition overall as well, granted he's higher ranked, and I believe that that is going to pull through. And just with the technical capabilities on the feet with that takedown defense, he should be taking this one. Now, moving on to Evan Elder versus Gage Young, the most short notice fight on this card. We had Evan Elder, who was already short notice coming into this, who was supposed to fight Ahmed Hazanzada, who did a bit of SA with a MINOR, which we're not talking about any further. And Gage Young has replaced him. Now, Gage Young coming in on a week's notice, credit to him, he's definitely exciting. He's got KO power on his side, he's got clean boxing, he's got fast hand speed, and he's good at closing the distance and suffocating his opposition. He's just overall pretty dangerous on the feet. But on the ground, he did struggle against Quill and Cell killed on Dana White's Contender Series, especially the later it got. He was just wilting, and that's where Evan Elder is really going to be able to get the better of him in this fight. Evan Elder has shown great ground transitions, especially in his last fight against Darius Flowers, and he can definitely utilize that later in the fight where Young is just going to start gassing out, and that's just exacerbated by the fact he's literally fighting on 1 week's notice. I just don't like the late game for Gage Young here. Now, if either of these guys are going to finish the other in the first round, it's more likely going to be Gage Young. He's definitely more aggressive in that sense. Evan Elder's definitely got the power there and is very nice with his combinations on the front foot, but yeah, Gage Young, I believe, is just a bit more dangerous there. But Evan Elder, he is ultimately just more well-rounded. He's more battle-tested. He's got a better ground game, which is just going to be a killer against Young, who has a compromised gas tank. So if Young can get this done, honestly, credit to him. That's going to be an amazing, amazing way to get into the UFC, especially on a week's notice and replacing someone like that. But Evan Elder, I think ultimately he is just going to be too much for him. I can understand why he is the 3-1 favorite, and I believe he's going to get a decision win here. I think pretty plain and simple. I think Young could win the first round, possibly over Evan Elder if he just really just goes at him 100%. But if he doesn't finish him in the first round, the second and the third, pretty much most likely definitely going to be Evan Elder's. I mean, he's just got the cardio there. He's more trained up, he's more battle tested, and I believe with that wrestling, I think that he's going to be able to get it done in the second and the third round to take that decision. Moving up the card to Matt Schnell, who is not retired yet somehow, and Jimmy Flick. Now, this is definitely kind of one of your bare bone kind of flyweight fights. I mean, Schnell's coming out of retirement, and we just don't even know how much grit he's got, and we don't know if his chin's even there anymore, to be honest, and he is susceptible everywhere. But Jimmy Flick has no KO power. That's where it's a problem for Jimmy Flick. If this gets to the ground, obviously preferring Jimmy Flick. He is a wizard on the ground, 15-0 with submissions. And that's where he could finish this fight. He definitely could, but he's going to realistically have to hurt Matt Schnell, I do believe. Matt Schnell isn't a guy that has, like, shit fight IQ or anything. He just gets in these kind of wars and just gets into these positions where he just dies. You know, against Urseg with just the boxing, and he doesn't, like, when it comes to the submission-based games, they're usually pretty competitive, but I think Matt Schnell, realistically, he is going to want to definitely win this fight, especially coming out of retirement back into this to give it another chance. And by doing that, plain and simple blueprint for him is to stay on the feet. And if he does, he can win this fight. And I believe that he's not going to overextend in this fight. He doesn't really have KO power himself. He's just fast, he's got volume, and he's better on the feet than Jimmy Flick. Jimmy Flick looks like a 40-year-old man out there on the feet, to be honest. But if it gets to the ground, Flick is going to submit Matt Schnell for sure. I'm very confident in that. But yeah, Matt Schnell, I believe that he can keep it on the feet, use a little bit of fight IQ, and stay in the game with a decision win. Now, moving up the card where the fights are starting to get a bit spicy, we've got Andre Muniz versus Ikram Aliskerov. Now, starting off with Muniz, he's been out for a little bit, but I think he's actually a better fighter than people give him no credit for. He lost to Brendan Allen by a submission. I mean, Brendan Allen is very good with his submission base, and Andre Muniz before that was 15-0. But the thing that I don't like is that he got KO'd by Paul Craig, and that, when you get knocked out by him, it's just really not looking good for you, and being out for so long, that is a bit of an issue. And Muniz, if he gets it to the ground, there's always a strong chance, even against Ikram Aliskerov, who has never been submitted, but I just can't deal with the inconsistency that he's had. I mean, he barely beat Park in his last fight, and we've looked at Aliskerov. Yes, he's been taken out by Whittaker absolutely fucking beautifully and brutally, but he is just a better fighter, to be honest. He is of a higher level, and that's really down to, especially in this matchup, the forward pressure, the power striking he has, and the defensive grappling, most importantly. It's just going to be a bit of a nightmare for Muniz, honestly. I mean, Muniz is 4-5 with KOs. He's a bit chinny, and I think Aliskerov is going to be able to suffocate him against the cage and just find the mark within the first or the second round, to be honest. I think that KO there is definitely there. Muniz, if he gets it to the ground, he has a chance, but I just don't see him taking Aliskerov down. He doesn't have the best takedowns, but if he gets it there, he is good, but I just don't see it over Ikram Aliskerov, to be honest. I think these odds are a little bit wayward. You know, I think they're a little bit too far. I think that's a bit too disrespectful for Muniz, but yeah, I just think Aliskerov can get it done anyway, but I think the odds should be a bit closer, not because really of Muniz's disrespect, it's more so Aliskerov. We don't know how he's coming off that bloody Robert Whittaker finish. He could look like absolute dog shit. So there is that chance there, and I prefer Muniz on the ground overall, but yeah, Ikram with the KO power, it's just too good not to take. Now, moving up to what should realistically be a top 15 eliminator, we have Randy Brown versus Nicholas Dolby. This is going to be a very good fight. Dolby is durable as hell, breathes loud as hell, and is always tough to deal with, especially with that pace he puts on, even though the guy is fucking 40 years old. He does not slow down. He is extremely impressive. And Randy Brown, I do believe he will struggle in this matchup stylistically because he doesn't have an offensive wrestling arsenal to combat Dolby. And I understand that Brown is a favorite. He's fresher, he's in his prime age range, and you know, he does win at like striking, especially at range for sure. But in the clinch, that's where I'm a bit worried about Brown, to be honest, especially with that consistent pacing of Dolby. I mean, Dolby took Rinat Fakhretdinov to a split decision and beat the shit out of Gabriel Bonfim. And that's where, honestly, I think Randy Brown can do better than those guys to an extent when it comes to the striking, because the wrestling is just a bit of a nightmare against Dolby. And Randy Brown, unless he pulls something out his ass or he's lucky in getting a trip, I don't see him taking Dolby down. And being on the feet, Randy Brown has to keep him at range. Randy Brown is literally going to have to be doing complete circle work in this matchup, or just really keeping Dolby at the end of a stiff jab and somehow knocking him out. Because otherwise, I just see Dolby being able to break off that range, suffocate him against the cage, and just cause a lot of problems through round to round to round. And that's where I think Brown, especially the later it goes, the worse it's going to be for him. But he's not going to make it easy for Dolby at all, because Randy Brown, any moments that he has at range, he is going to get the better of Dolby. So it's going to be very much a seesaw within that. But I'm going to be taking Dolby by a split decision. I just think he has the striking arsenal to deal with Brown a bit better than people think, to be honest. Randy Brown could literally go out there, though, and just finish him in the first round. But I just don't know overall, to be honest. I just don't see it happening in comparison to what Nicholas Dolby can present, especially when it comes to wrestling himself. He's got a submission game there too. There's just a lot for Brown to deal with in comparison for Dolby to deal from Brown, realistically. So split decision here. I think Dolby can just take it as a nice underdog win. Now moving up to an absolute fucking barn burner, we have Michel Pereira versus Abus Magomedov. This is probably going to be the most fast-paced fight we are going to get this year. This is just going to be ridiculous. Abus Magomedov has been looking pretty good recently, I will say. But Michel Pereira, I do believe, is rightfully the favorite here. I was actually kind of surprised with how close these odds are. But looking at Pereira, the reason why I am going to take him here is for multiple reasons, to be honest. He's more of a physical threat. I mean, he's beaten Abus Magomedov's level of opposition multiple times, destroyed them. He's got more power in his hands overall, and he's got more tools on the feet with the capoeira style too. He's just a whirlwind. And Abus Magomedov is a whirlwind as well, but the statistics really just go in Michel Pereira's favor, to be honest. He's much more accurate with his strikes, and he throws twice the output over Abus Magomedov against better opposition naturally through his career than Abus Magomedov's statistics suggest. So it's even worse for him in that sense. Now, Abus Magomedov, he's literally just got to find a point where he can chin Michel Pereira when he's doing some fancy dancing shit with his capoeira. He's just got to find that mark or somehow suffocate him through the second to the third round. But Magomedov's got shit cardio too. So they're both, it's a battle of the shit cardio. But Michel Pereira, just, if anyone's going to finish anyone, I think Michel Pereira has got that ability. And I think he's going to be able to get it done within the first round, possibly the start of the second, because he knows after that Hernandez fight, he needs to throw the fucking kitchen sink at his opposition. Because if it goes any further than like the second to the third round, the guy is just going to be dry heaving for literally 10 to, I mean, depending on the fight, 10 to bloody 15 to 20 minutes. So Michel Pereira, I do trust and believe that he is going to be able to get this one done and re-hunt another top 15 fight. Now, moving up to Giga Chikadze versus David Onama. Huge opportunity for David Onama. I really like him as a fighter. He's never been finished before. He's got a very, very strong, notable physical threat in that division for sure. Very explosive on the ground and on the feet. He's very exciting. I wouldn't have had him as my first pick to get the top 15 shot over guys like Nate Wood and Steve Garcia, to be honest, but I am not complaining about this at all. I think this is a great matchup to have, and if David Onama pushes Giga Chikadze on the back foot, he could definitely chin Giga Chikadze, and there's a possibility if he gets it to the ground, he could submit him as well. It is a dangerous fight for Giga Chikadze, and to an extent, I do understand why Giga is the underdog, to an extent. He is getting older for sure, and Onama is entering that prime age range, but I do think the experience level of Giga Chikadze is being severely disrespected here. I mean, David Onama stylistically has never fought a guy like Giga Chikadze before, and if Giga is on the front foot, with that kickboxing pedigree he has, how fast his kicks are, and especially those body shots, and we've seen David Onama on the back foot before, and he does not like to be on the back foot. Neither of these guys do. And realistically, whoever is on the front foot should be winning this fight, in all honesty. Onama's got more tools across MMA to win it, but Giga Chikadze's kickboxing pedigree is the standout discipline here that I really, really like in this matchup, on top of the experience level that he does have. And especially against David Onama, cutting down the explosivity, especially with the body kicks and the leg kicks, through the second and third round, if he can survive through that first round, I believe he's getting a decision win here. I think it's going to be 29-28, winning the second and third, and Onama pressuring Chikadze in that first round to try to take his head off. But Giga is definitely smart. He's learnt from Calvin Kattar. And David Onama is not Calvin Kattar with that boxing pedigree. So Giga, honestly, he's a pretty decent underdog to take in this one, I do believe. Now, moving on to our co-main event, we have Anthony on paper Smith versus Zhang Mingyang. And this is going to be the last time that we're going to be predicting and breaking down a fight for Anthony Smith. And I don't think we're going to end on a good note here, let's be honest. I mean, unless Anthony Smith pulls out a Hail Mary guillotine like he did against Vitor Petrino, I think that his chin is getting sent to the fucking Shadow Realm. I just don't really understand the reason why he's taking this fight as a retirement fight. It's the ultimate risk versus reward, which is just not going to be going his way. Zhang is just so much more powerful, he's faster. I mean, he's got good boxing. He's 10 years younger. I mean, he's ultimately got absolutely everything in this matchup to get this done brutally, to be honest. First round KO, just the speed in the exchange compared to what Smith offers, especially nowadays. Smith should literally be a sitting duck. If Zhang lets this go to the second round, it's a failure to him, I do believe. He should realistically be getting this done easily. The odds are perfectly suggested in this. I just don't see any way Smith is winning this unless he gets a Hail Mary submission. But aside from that, Zhang Mingyang, he's getting this one done, and he is rightfully getting a ranking position. Now, moving on to our absolutely incredible main event. I am so keen for this. We got Ian Garry versus Carlos Prates out of the Fighting Nerds. Now, Ian Garry, he definitely has gained a lot more fans just by the massive size of his balls in the short notice fights that he has taken. He's taken a short notice fight against Shavkat Rakhmonov, and now he's taken a short notice fight against Carlos Prates. Both absolute killers. And Ian Garry did nothing but gain fans in that Shavkat Rakhmonov fight. He did a lot better than, I reckon, 95% of people did. I thought that, honestly, Shavkat was going to be able to chin him, but Ian Garry just showed that he put Shavkat in more danger, ultimately, than Shavkat put him in. And, honestly, that on short notice, Garry has a lot of potential. But I will say, Prates, this guy, he is just potential personified. And granted, I know a lot of people in the MMA space have gone back and looked at, Prates, he's 3-3 with submissions. There are definitely holes there. There's even a bit of quitter in him from the regional scene where he has been taken out on the feet because of the adversity. Is Ian Garry going to realistically outstrike Prates at any range? No. I don't see that happening. Garry is not a power striker. He's very good with his accuracy. Lovely, lovely leg kicks as well. He's really good at just breaking down the opposition over time. But the way we look at Prates and especially his reach advantage, 3.5 inches of reach is crucial in this matchup. Because if Ian Garry can't keep the distance with his leg reach advantage, he's going to get cooked. He's going to get cooked in the first round. And Garry is very good at circling along the outside. And realistically, if he does formulate a game plan where he can avoid those power shots of Prates through the first round, or even better, get Prates to the ground, he will win this fight. And Garry does have more options to win. He could win by a submission, and he can win by a decision. I would probably stray away from a KO TKO unless it's later in the fight and he wears Prates down completely. But Prates is just built differently now that he's in the UFC. He's chinning absolutely everyone. And his takedown defense is very, very underrated, in all honesty. And what would he have been doing ever since his last loss by submission? Literally training that takedown defense. He even showed it in glimpses in some of his fights. He even showed it against Neil Magny to an extent, however long that lasted. He is hard to take down. He's very good at sprawling as well. He has shown that on the regional scene to an extent. But him now against Ian Garry, who is kind of like that Brazilian, they have really good striking, really good submission game. The part in between, the bridge, the wrestling is not the greatest. Now, we know that Ian Garry had Shavkat down. He was able to control him very well on the ground, but he only secured one takedown that whole entire fight in the 5th round. And Ian Garry realistically needs to be doing that in the first round, because against a guy with a 90% finish rate that is no fluke at all, and has had more of a complete camp overall, which Prates had because he was obviously preparing for Neil Magny. Oh, sorry, not Neil Magny, Jeff Niels. I mean, he's ultimately just more prepared, even though Ian Garry and, Jeff Neal aren't the same kind of fighter. It's still the fact that he has been in that camp. He has been dialed, and I just can't get past Prates getting this one done by a KO TKO in the first or second round. We've seen Garry get slumped by Song Kanan, and granted, his recovery was absolutely fantastic. He got back up and won that fight amazingly well. But if you're getting tagged by Sung Kanan and then Prates is in front of you and that same shot is hitting you, your head's getting literally ripped off your shoulders. Now, that is easier said than done for Prates. Prates, I'm not saying it's just an easy one and done for him. Realistically, he has to find the perfect shot, and he hasn't gone against a guy that's like Ian Garry, who's taller than him as well. So it's going to be a fascinating matchup in that sense, especially of Ian Garry's skill level at that height too. Realistically, if this is going anywhere past the second round, I've got Garry by a submission or a decision, but I do believe with Prates, the momentum he has, just the drive that he has, the drive that the Fighting Nerds has, they are looking mythical at this point. And I do believe Prates is going to be able to take Garry out and really just nullify a lot of his hype and his talk within the first to the second round by a KO stiff. Now, moving to our fight card awards and starting with the fight of the night, got to give it to Randy Brown versus Nicholas Dolby. It's just that these guys are so close in skill level. It's pretty much a top 15 eliminator fight, definitely should be. And these guys are just so skilled in specific areas. Randy Brown is a very good kickboxer. Obviously, Dolby pretty much has unlimited cardio. He's just a pressure machine, and these guys just really just conflict in their style. So I think it's going to be a lot of back and forth. It's just going to be a long, just draining fight, but there's just going to be a lot of MMA just aspects within it, and that's what you really want in a fight, and that's why I think it's going to take fight of the night. Now, finish of the night, going off our main event, I got to give it to Carlos Prates. If he can get that done against a top 10 certified guy in Ian Garry in the first couple of rounds, which realistically is when it's going to be happening, if any time, Carlos Prates is literally shooting up the division. If he chins Ian Garry, there's not many fighters that are going to want to fight him, to be honest. Like, there's already fighters that really don't want to fight him, and that's why it's credit to Garry, because he's got humongous cojones for taking this fight on short notice, under a month. Very much credit to him, but Prates, I just think that he's simplistically got that power, got the striking, just got the threat overall on the feet that Garry simply just has not seen before within a frame of Carlos Prates, where he can reach a lot easier than a lot of Garry's opposition that he's ever faced before. So I think Prates is going to be able to get this one done. Now, moving on to our performance of the night, I got to give it to Zhang Mingyang. As I said, this is a golden opportunity for him to get the finish within the first round, and any further than that, I do believe it's a bit of a failure for him. Zhang Mingyang just got all the abilities here to get this one done when it comes to the power on the feet, the boxing, the speed, just the momentum, everything he has got to take Anthony Smith out for the final fight that Anthony Smith is definitely not going to want. Now, moving on to upset of the night, I got to give it to Giga Chikadze, to be honest. I mean, being a guy that's almost a 3-1 underdog against David Onama, which Giga has fought better opposition overall. He's got very, very clean kickboxing, had a very competitive fight with Arnold Allen, who's in the top 6 to the top 5 of the division. I mean, Giga is honestly a very good fighter still. Even though he's 6 years older, he's 36 compared to Onama being 30. He's got the tools there, and especially if he gets off on the front foot and utilizes the body and leg kicks especially, David Onama is in for a long night. And now moving to the fighter to watch, we've got Roberto Romero. And just speaking of Giga Chikadze versus David Onama, Roberto Romero, in the one fight that he has had in the UFC, it was against David Onama, who is now getting a ranked fight, and Romero almost took his head off in the first round, and that was on short notice as well. So imagine what he's going to do with a full camp against Timmy Cuamba. I think that Roberto Romero has definitely got the power in his hands and the skill set within the forward pressure movement that he has in the boxing to get this one done, especially with Timmy Cuamba not having the greatest strike defense as well on the back foot. And yeah, Roberto Romero, I think he's going to make a statement in this one. Now, I hope you enjoyed this predictions and breakdown video, and I hope you enjoyed this fight night in Kansas City. And if you haven't already checked out, definitely check out my matchups to make video. Me playing matchmaker with the whole entire featherweight division, giving you guys the best matchups to make for all the ranked fighters at featherweight at this time period, and there are some bangers. Now, I really hope you did enjoy this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.